How's it going, guys? Will here, and as of today, it's been over a year since I pretty much exclusively switched to the iOS side of things. If you don't know the story, my Samsung S8 at the time was giving me some trouble, and as I'd pretty much been a lifelong Android user, I wanted to see what the iOS side of things was like. And so with that, I went to eBay, I picked up a refurbished iPhone 7, and simply tried it out. So, needless to say, 1 year later and many different iPhones tried, also with a chance to properly experience that ecosystem, do I regret switching to iPhone? And will I be going back to Android? Let's find out. So how this video is going to work is it's going to be broken down into several common categories, such as performance or usability. Then I'm going to talk about things I personally like and dislike about the iOS system. And of course, my final verdict. I do want to quickly make it clear before we get into it though, this isn't an Android versus iOS video. Seeing as, in my opinion, it's mostly preference, I'll never personally say one system is definitively better than the other. This video is simply detailing my experience switching to iPhone from, as I said, pretty much a lifelong Android user perspective. Okay, so first of all, we're going to be talking about performance. Nowadays, both iPhones and the high-end Androids perform really well. Towards the start of the lifespan, I have usually found Androids to be a little bit faster than iPhones. This is usually due to the typically higher specs on the Android side of things. But as the lifespan of each model increases, I find that the performance curve decreases in a very different way. With iPhones, it's generally more of a slow decrease, whereas in my experience, Androids usually take that point where they take a significant drop. See, with the Samsung, when I got it, it was really fast, and I mean really fast. But as time went on, it got very slow and clunky. Whereas while slightly slower on release, iPhones seemed to last longer. And this was quickly reinforced when I picked up the iPhone 7, which is actually slightly older than the S8, and it was still performing well back in May 2019. Following on from this, when support cycles compared, it is pretty obvious that most iPhones last longer than most Androids. That said, longevity really isn't a big issue for me. Because I enjoy this stuff, I like to switch my devices around regularly, so I'm never really on one device for too long. Next up, we're talking apps. Now, I actually think this section is very subjective, and this is because of the different types of apps people use. Me personally, I don't really use any obscure apps. In fact, hold on, I could probably list off the amount of apps I have on my phone in like 10 seconds. No, I couldn't. I generally don't use any massively obscure apps. And when looking back on my Android experience, I have honestly found the iOS apps to be a little bit more stable. Now, this is because there are less iPhones, so it's easier to optimize. And so generally from what I've heard and my own experience, mainstream apps do often run better on iPhone. That said, there are some really cool independent apps that you don't have access to on the App Store. So again, honestly, I'd say this section is very subjective. Following on from this, we have customization. This is perhaps the biggest thing I miss about Android. With Android, you have the option to pretty much customize the UI of your device however you want. I remember installing like all these different launchers, trying them out. There were loads of them, and some were really good. You also have the option to change like fonts and colors, whereas on iOS, it is fairly closed. That said, in terms of physical customization, there are generally more options for the iPhone side of things. Now, this is often due to the fact that case or skin makers don't have to make as many models. They can simply make a unibody aluminium style one, a 10 style one, maybe an 11 style one. There aren't that many models that they need to make. Whereas on the Android side of things, because of the design variations, there would be a lot of different models case makers would have to support. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still plenty of physical customization options on the Android side of things, on top of the fact that the interface customization already definitely won this round for Android. I have found there to be more cases and skins available on the iPhone side of things. Okay, next we're talking build quality. I've generally found that iOS devices are more premium feeling and built out of better material, but in general, I have found Androids to be a bit more sturdy. In my experience, I have cracked an iPhone screen. However, this isn't to say I haven't had the same experience on some of my Androids, so nothing was really new there. That said, I do have to be more careful with my iPhone than I've had to be with some of my Androids, such as the faithful Motorola G3. Seriously, I love that phone. I was convinced I lost it in a car park once. Turns out one of my friends was just hiding it for a joke though. So yeah, in my experience, my phones have felt nicer, but they've definitely felt more breakable. Moving on, we're going to be talking about the camera performance. Camera performance is a pretty important part of the phone for me. As I've said before, I take loads of photos with my phone. I've bought apps to help me take better photos with my phone. I use the portrait mode to get that full frame blurry background look. And in my experience, iPhone cameras have been consistently good. On the Android side of things, sometimes I've had great experiences. Other times it hasn't been so great. For example, on the Motorola 3, the camera quality was pretty good. However, on some of the other Androids I've tried over the years, quality hasn't been all that good. So due to the consistency, honestly, I've enjoyed using the iPhone line. Alright, so the first thing I've really enjoyed about iOS is simply the stability stability. No matter what iPhone I've been using, I've pretty much always had a stable experience. Granted, not as fast, but still minimal crashes, a smooth operating system, and consistency in user experience, which is honestly a huge deal for me. The next thing I've enjoyed is fully being a part of the Apple ecosystem. I already pretty much exclusively use Mac computers and have had an iPad, so the ability to keep everything centralized with tools like AirDrop and iCloud has been really nice, especially considering my affinity for digital minimalism. Using an iPhone has just helped me take this to the next level, and while I don't think the ecosystem is as big a deal as some people say it is still useful. The final thing that stood out to me, as I said before, has been the camera. Granted, there's nothing too crazy about iPhone cameras, but again, the photos that I've been able to take on my iPhones have been consistently high quality with good levels of detail and sharpness, nice colors, and very little distortion. Again, as I said before, I take a lot of photos on my phone, so this is a pretty big deal for me. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about what I haven't enjoyed so much. The first thing is simply that lack of customization. As I said earlier, I really enjoy being able to customize the UI of my phones. And well, when I did, I kept it simple. Being able to configure my phone in exactly the way I want it was a really nice thing. And of course, another drawback of the iPhone side of things is the initial cost. Most of the time, iPhones do cost more than Androids, and they stay expensive for longer. Now, of course, this could be a pro as well, because it does mean you get more if you choose to resell it later. But yeah, all things considered, getting into the system is expensive. Okay, so all things considered, do I regret switching? No. At the time, I believed it was the right thing to do. I wanted a new experience, and I wasn't satisfied with my current Android, so I just went for it. And honestly, using iPhones over the last year has been really nice, especially with the ecosystem instability. And while I did lose the customization aspect, I think that's a worthy trade-off for me. That said, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to using an Android again. Honestly, I just like to use phones that I find interesting. So as I said, I wouldn't be against using an Android system again, but still, the iPhone system is working well for me right now. Alright guys, so that's it for today. Feel free to let me know in the comments which system you use. But as of now, thank you for watching. Remember to like the video if you want to see more content like this, and smash that subscribe button. I'm done for now, and I will see you guys in the next one.